Hello everybody, my name is Lauren Sergi and this is Talk Shop. Most of us can think of at least one talk we've seen where the speaker's sense of humor, the stories they told or the jokes that they relayed to us had us laughing for days after we saw their original talk. But humor is a much more powerful tool than just a way to make us more entertained while we're learning something new. Humor has the ability to change your workplace culture, to change how people relate to each other, to improve relationships, to break tension. And here today to tell us all of the different ways we can embrace humor, use it, and get better at it so that we can improve our own organizational culture is funny man and humor at work expert Michael Kerr. Michael Kerr is a certified speaking professional, an international business speaker and motivational speaker, workshop trainer, and the author of 6 books, including his most recent, The Humor Advantage: Why Some Businesses Are Laughing All the Way to the Bank. Michael travels the world researching, writing, and speaking about inspiring workplace cultures. He is known as one of North America's leading speakers on workplace culture and on how businesses leverage their humor resources to deliver outrageous results, including lower absenteeism rate, lower employee turnover rate, less stress, more creativity, more effective communication, and increased sales. Michael has delivered his captivating keynote presentations and training workshops to more than 2,000 audiences, from Iran to Texas, from Australia to Austria. Mr. Michael Kerr, thank you for coming to Talk Shop Interviews to share your light and your wisdom and your funniness with us. And I'm going to hit you right off the bat with the question of how on earth did you get into the business of helping businesses develop a sense of humor? Because that's an interesting offer of yours.
It is an interesting offer, and thank you, Lauren. It's fabulous to be here. The way I got into this crazy business is many, many moons ago, over 2 decades ago. I was a senior manager in the government. And the culture became, how do I put this diplomatically? The culture sort of turned into a soul-sucking, fun-sucking, Dilbert-like work environment where people were losing their sense of humor by the day. Mm-hmm. And I was always known as a leader for my sense of humor, for how I used humor effectively in meetings, in communication, in just maintaining morale and managing stress, all that good stuff. So I was known for my sense of humor, and watching people lose their sense of humor is, interestingly enough, what got me interested in it from a more professional academic way. So I attended my very first humor conference, and yes, those things exist all over the world, and started researching.
I want to go to one.
Yeah, they're fabulous. And decided that I had had enough working in such a toxic, dysfunctional culture. And so I was going to make it my mission to talk about how work is too important. Work is too important to have it suck our souls out of us. We owe it to our families, to our customers, to each other, to our souls, to create as positive a rocking workplace as possible. And because I was always known for my humor and interested in humor, I decided to use humor as sort of the entry point, the vehicle to talk about creating rocking, inspiring workplaces.
So is this lack of the ha-ha something that's inherent to governments, or is it more an overall big corporate problem where people aren't recognizing and leveraging what they can get out of it, having a good sense of humor?
Yeah, it varies. And for sure, I have seen government departments that embrace a lot of humor and a lot of fun. And
Ministry of Silly Walks?
Ministry of Silly Walks, there you go, a classic one. So it's I think it's easy to stereotype different professions as saying, oh, those folks are more serious or more,
right,
more corporate or conservative. But I've seen examples across the board from every type of government department or private business of both extremes, where they embrace a ton of fun in everything they do, and then the other extreme. And sometimes, what's interesting, Lauren, sometimes in the same organization, you see these differences between just departments. So you go to one department within a company or government organization, and morale is through the roof. People are enjoying themselves. They're happy to be there. They're using lots of humor. And the other one, let's just say, not so much.
You get the sad faces at the sad desks, sharing sad birthday cake on sad birthday Friday every month or whatever it is. Like, morale.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
So what does, in these contexts then, because there's no way that humor is just having humor as part of your corporate culture. It can't just be wandering around and sharing jokes and one-liners. What does humor look like in an organizational culture context?
Right, and you nailed it there. It is certainly not about telling jokes or being the office clown or even always being funny. Having a sense of humor is much broader than that. And as I talk about it in the Humor Advantage, it's about having a sense of perspective about our workplace issues. It's about being more human and real and genuine and authentic. It's about having a sense of balance. It's about finding the funny in our day-to-day work lives. And especially about laughing at the things we have no control over and laughing more at ourselves. After all, as I like to say, is it not a truism that the more seriously a person takes themselves, the less seriously we tend to take that person? Which is ironic because they're taking themselves seriously in the hopes that everyone takes me seriously. And the truth is, we're not taking you seriously now.
No.
So when we talk about humor, that's the definition I like to start with. And then when we talk about it in the context of an organization, we can't treat it as window dressing or a band-aid solution. It has to be incorporated into the fabric of the culture. It has to be organic in the culture. I talk a lot about how humor can both be an effective tool to help build a more inspiring workplace culture, but it's also the end result of working in a successful team or culture where we are treating each other with respect and appreciation and living those important values in our culture, where it then becomes easy to keep a good sense of humor. So it's the byproduct of working in a successful organization as much as it is a driver of success. But it can't be forced, it can't be fake, it has to be ingrained into your culture.
So how do we do that then? Like, how do we ingrain this into the culture? I kid you not, this is a true story. I worked in a place, toxic work environment, had an average six-month turnover out of a very small team. Yeah. And one thing that they would try to do that the director and assistant director would try to do is that at the start of meetings, we would go around the table and share a funny joke and story. And this was in a sad workplace. Like it was. So I'm thinking that isn't the sort of implementation you recommend in terms of bringing humor into the culture. What would you suggest? Where can people start?
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's not a bad thing to do if your culture is reflecting that, right? And you, as you pointed out, though, there was a disconnect between doing an exercise like that and what people were really feeling. And so
it was like angry robots.
Right, yeah. So again, that goes back to how, first and foremost, we've got to make sure we're building that positive, supportive culture. Otherwise, people will view so many of these attempts as cynical, right? They'll roll their eyes and they'll think, oh God, it's the month. How long is this going to last? So it has to be built in. So a couple of things just to get started that I suggest, and Lauren, as I'm sure you know and talk about, so much of this, it certainly helps if it starts at the top, right? People are looking to see what the senior leaders are doing, what they're laughing at. They set the tone, they set the mood. Senior leaders are like the orchestra conductor in a work. They lighten up on themselves, on each other. If they're able to laugh at themselves, if they are seen to be injecting some fun and humor and even some silliness into the workday, then that does volumes for the rest of the team and the rest of the organization. So ideally, you want to start at the top. Some things that I really suggest that can work well if you want to get started. One is okay, so back to your meeting example, is look at your meetings. Meetings, I think, are one of the key places where we can both build our culture, so they are a key culture building vehicle, but they also should reflect the culture that we want in our workplace. So if you want your workplace to be an innovative, open, honest, caring, fun workplace, then boy, your meetings better reflect all those values. So I really stress to get your meetings right. And the more you can inject a little bit of fun and humor, whether it's a fun, goofy meeting icebreakers you talked about, or a humor moment, or assigning fun roles in the meeting, there's all sorts. In fact, I have I have a handout on my website of over 50 fun ways to add a little humor to your meetings.
Oh, great. We'll link to that in the descriptions.
Yeah, and a Scientific America study even found that those humors that have lots of fun and laughter and bantering were the most effective meetings. People tended to be more creative, more open and honest. So that's one thing I stress, get your meetings right. Another thing I'm a huge fan of, and every inspiring workplace I have spent time with and researched around the planet, they are huge believers in the power of rituals and traditions. Rituals and traditions give everybody something to look forward to, something to reminisce about, and they create that sense of shared history, that shared team experience that becomes part of your DNA in your workplace. So look for opportunities to create rituals and traditions. And that's a great way to get some momentum building and a great way to keep some of that lightness alive on an ongoing basis. So maybe it's a tradition to kick off the work week with in a fun way, or end the work week. And it doesn't have to be outrageous. It could be ending your work week with a huddle on Friday afternoon where everybody reviews their top 3 wins of the week. Or maybe it's a fun ritual to celebrate different key milestones. Maybe it's celebrating those offbeat theme days. I post those on my website. Every day there's wacky theme days, or making up your own theme days. I'm a huge fan of this. One of my clients, and I love this one because it's so stupid and so simple, they do third person Thursdays. So everybody talks about themselves, but in the third person. So how can you not go through about your day just smiling at each other, right? When you're sitting there going, hey, Mike's looking forward to the meeting this afternoon. You know, it's so stupid, but that's the kind of stuff that can have a huge impact on a workplace culture.
Well, and it sounds genuinely fun too. So if people are looking at experimenting, it's not that they have to suddenly become some kind of stand-up comic. It's, as you say, there can be a gentle introduction, experiment with a few relatively easy things, but make it part of your regular practice at work, and then it will bleed into it.
Right, so it becomes a habit, and just start slowly, start with a few things that aren't going to scare people if this is new to you. And keep in mind, of course, because I hear it all the time, a lot of our team members are introverts. And again, I want to stress this. We're not talking about being introverted or extroverted. We're not talking about being zany, madcap people. We're not talking about being unprofessional in any way. Something like anywhere from 30 to 50% of the population are thought to be introverts. So it's about just creating, again, those safe moments where everybody can participate in something that's genuinely fun, that's going to just add to the environment in your workplace in a positive way.
I love it. I love it. And other things about your work that I love, The Humor Advantage. Oh, such a good book. And it's so good, Mike. Thank you for sending it. It's just wonderful. And there was a line right in the first chapter. I'm looking at it right now. I literally went, yes, when I read it. I was so happy. Yes. And I'll read it out right now. Right in the first chapter, you state, rarely are we more real than when we laugh. We are never more human than when humor shatters the professional mask we sometimes wear, revealing the true human being lurking beneath the corporate facade. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. And that goes to so much of the heart of why this matters and why it works.
Well, What is it that we're revealing about ourselves through our humor? I'm very curious about that. What other people can learn about us as human beings from our sense of humor and how we engage with fun and funny things.
Yeah, I think that's a big question, right? It's a very good question. But as I say,
please give me your thesis in 2 weeks, Mike.
Yes, I know. Yes, I don't think I would answer it even then. But like I suggest, it removes, because so often we feel we have to play this role at work, right? I have to be the business person, or I'm doing a presentation, so now I have to put on my presentation mode, right, and be all serious with this person. And we play these roles, or we defer to how other people are acting, and we start modeling their behavior, and we wear these fake masks. And we know from so much research that some of the most effective organizations are those cultures where people are allowed to be their authentic selves, to bring their real, genuine selves to work. And so humor just helps us in so many ways on that front. I think it helps us be more vulnerable. When we laugh, we just become a group of kids, right? And it just clears away that mask. When we laugh at ourselves, it shows, it reveals so much about us, that we don't take ourselves too seriously, that we can lighten up about things, that it reveals things about our thinking, about our personality. So much of our identity is wrapped in that. In fact, I just read last night a survey about millennials saying that something like 82% of millennials say that their sense of humor is how they primarily identify themselves.
Really?
It's humor, and it's become the number one themselves. And this is a big change from other generations and the past. So they don't identify, and this is what the study said, they don't identify even so much by the music they listen to, by the sports teams they watch. It was by their humor and their understanding of humor in culture, their use of humor. So I thought that was fascinating.
That is. And of course, that notion of, if the millennials are seeing it as such an intrinsic part of our identity, and I'm one of those older millennials too, and actually it makes a lot of sense to me. It is one of the defining aspects of my personality that I can identify. It makes sense that it would also help to make things like a brand identity much more accessible to the people that a company is trying to reach. Now, one of the ways that you really strongly advocate using humor is to help people understand and remember your message. And message can be very broad, right? It can be what message your brand is. It could be your branding. It could be a specific point or an argument you're making, and so on. So what is it about humor? Because we know that we remember funny stuff, but what is it about that makes it so accessible and sticky in our brains?
Well, there's a few things. And what we know from the research too is what matters if we really want people to remember our stuff is the humor has to be relevant.
Yeah.
Whatever message we're trying to deliver. Even just using humor, even if it's not relevant, still the research has shown that'll help us remember some of the stuff, but not as powerfully as when we wrap a message around some humor. And I think there's a couple of reasons why that works. One is it just attracts attention, right? Our brains literally perk up. Our eyeballs perk up. Our ears perk up when we hear, see, or listen to humor. We know from brain scans even that it activates a different part of the brain. There's an emotional connection. And you probably talk about this, Lauren. We know that when messages are tied to an emotion, we tend to remember them more. Yeah. And so there is a response. In fact, when you laugh, humor and laughter, there is a triple threat, right? We have a physical response when we laugh, so it changes our body chemistry. We actually physically feel it. There's a cognitive response, so it changes how we look at something, and that helps. Kind of gets us to look at things in a weird way, or a way we never considered it before. Quirky kind of way. Mm-hmm. And then there's an emotional response. So humor is a triple threat. And all of that, I think, together helps us retain that information or that message that people want us to remember.
Right. And speaking geek to speaking geek, one of the ways that I love using humor and really, really recommend that anyone I'm working with to develop their talks and their speaking skills, how they can use it too, is to break tension. And I've found that when you can build up tension, you build up your message, you're creating all of this sense in the audience, and then you bust out with just an absurd but relevant little statement or comment or something, and they feel that switch. The emotional hit of when that tension gets broken just drives the message home. It's wonderful. It's magic when it happens too. It's like...
Absolutely, and you watch a really good speaker, a really good storyteller or comedian, watch them do their craft and see how they build those moments of tension, and then exactly as you say, you put it so beautifully, and just that release, right? It's like a safety release valve almost sometimes on our pent up emotions, right? So you built up, and then good, we can breathe, we can laugh about this, and it also, that. the tension thing too, when we talk about the speaking aspect, we have to remember as presenters, it helps us relax too, right? It
Yes.
relaxes the audience, but if you want to relax as a presenter, then boy, the more you add a little humor, the more you take yourself lightly and are able to laugh at yourself, then the less stressed out, the less tense you're going to be. And it goes back to that authenticity thing too. And you
Yeah.
probably do this, Lauren, where I know, and I don't do as much coaching as you do, but I've coached some executives over the years, and it's amazing to see those moments where they have that mask on, right? They're being all serious, blah, 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 and professional, and blah, 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 right? And then all of a sudden, you know what happens time and time again? They mess up. They
Yeah.
screw up big time. And then what's happened is fascinating. They very often even physically step away from where they were standing. Their whole body relaxed. They laugh and they talk differently. And that's always the point where I'm going, who's this person? Because this is the person we want to hear from.
I was like, it's a human.
It's a human under there, under that mask. And it wasn't until they screwed up and had that blooper that the human revealed themselves, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, and in terms of using it to get over mistakes as well, like very brief example, I was giving a talk to a conference of government workers, a plenary speech at the very end of a long conference for them, and I got into a rolling series of visual jokes with my slideshow about pies. So it was pie joke after pie joke after pie joke, and at the end, when I was creating the slides, I got completely run away with my own enormous cleverness, and I created one that was, so, I realized that all of these different recommendations might seem a little bit like click, and there was a pie in the sky, big sunny pie. I'm like, and no one laughed. Like, it went over. It was the lead balloon in the audience, and I'm like, it's pie in the sky, people. Throw me a bone here. And as soon as I said that, they just roared with laughter. But then they were in with it on me, right? So It didn't work. Who cares? They can share that moment with me. It's great.
Yeah. And I love those moments, right? And often you get a bigger laugh at the recovery from the non-laugh.
So I'm going to tap into the coach side of you. And whenever I bring up humor in the communication and public speaking training I offer, there are always two kinds of pushback I get. And I know you get these too. So here they are. I want you to respond to them. Number one, but isn't that unprofessional?
Right. And I do hear that, not as much as I used to. I think people are embracing this more and more. But yeah, isn't this unprofessional? What I stress, again, is that it's about taking ourselves and those things we have no control over lightly in order to take our work seriously. I'm not talking about laughing at your customers, or I'm talking about laughing with your customers. I'm not talking about being unprofessional in any way. And here's the way I would reframe that or spin that around. What is unprofessional about taking the time and thought to put some humor into something so that you're more effective? What is unprofessional about making your culture more effective? What is unprofessional about treating your employees or your customers like real breathing human beings? What is unprofessional about making sure you're managing stress effectively in your workplace? When you look at the results, as I talk about in the book, we know that organizations that get this right, that focus on their culture and are intentional about their culture, because great cultures don't happen by accident, and incorporate a lot of fun and humor, they have lower employee absenteeism rates, lower employee turnover rates, higher sales, higher productivity, less issues with health and wellness. All of those numbers move in the right direction. So what on earth is unprofessional about that? It's about generating real results, but just being a little more human and a little more real and having a little more fun while we generate better results.
Mic drop. That's a mic. I am going to quote that bit from you, Mike, because it is fantastic, and I will credit you, I promise. That was perfect. So here's the second pushback. But I'm not funny.
Yes, and I get that all the time. And my smart aleck response is, neither am I at times. And it's pretty painful when you're being paid to be funny and oops, they didn't, just like your story before, they didn't find that funny. I thought it was hilarious.
That pie joke was solid gold, man. Didn't get it.
Inside I'm laughing like, oh, I thought that was pretty witty. Again, here's what I stress, right? It's not about, first of all, not about telling jokes. There's no correlation. I mean,
yeah,
I'm thought of as a pretty funny guy. I'm a horrible joke teller. I don't remember jokes. And I know people who are great joke tellers that have a really crappy sense of humor. So it's not about telling jokes, and it's not even always about being funny. If we focus on the fact that it's about, again, appreciating humor that's out there, finding the humor, finding the funny that's out there in your day-to-day life, and about just laughing at yourself, laughing at the things you have no control over, and just not getting in the way of people, not squashing on other people's sense of humor, right? Keeping that broad definition. And if you're not, and if you don't think of yourself as a naturally funny person, there are still some simple things you can do that has been shown in the research to help you develop your sense of humor, to grow that humor perspective with that broad definition. For example, one of the simplest things anyone can do is start a humor file or a humor book and start collecting funny stuff that is related to your business, your profession, because you want to, again, keep it relevant when possible, for stuff that you can use later on, and just keep those funny, weird articles that you come across, reading magazines or the newspapers. I do this all the time, and then all you're doing is reporting the news. You don't have to be funny, but anyone's going to get a laugh out of, one of the classic lines I use in some of my talks is a reference to an old Ipsos Reid survey where they suggested that Alberta, our province here, it was Canada's leading capital of photocopy machine rage. 52% of Albertans have physically assaulted a photocopier. Now that's just something I happen to come across, but because I was always looking for stuff like that, I cut it out, I saved it. Now anyone is going to get a laugh telling that story. You're just reporting the news.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this has been studied, this has been shown to be one of the fastest ways to grow your humor perspective, is practice looking for the unintentional funny stuff, the stuff that isn't supposed to be funny, the accidentally funny stuff, those weirdly written newspaper headlines or signs or questions you get where if you pause a few seconds and then do that quizzical dog look,
Yep.
What was that? And so look for that stuff, and it really does help you grow your sense of humor because it helps you start to look at things in a different way. When I was back in my government days, I in fact had a humor file where I collected things like the time this woman phoned me up from Ottawa doing a survey, and here's a classic example of accidental humor. Woman phones me up, she's doing a survey. She said, Mr. Kerr, I need to know the number of people in your department broken down by sex. And I paused and said, I don't think I'm allowed to ask that question at work. And then, of course, she realized how she had phrased it. And so I have massive files of the accidentally funny stuff. I find it's everywhere. Every town has one of those ear-piercing shops, right? And they always have the same goofy sign, something along the lines of ears pierced while you wait, as though there's an alternative to the whole procedure, right? So this stuff is everywhere. The key is to just practice looking for it and collect it. And you can grow your sense of humor, I think, if you do that.
I completely agree. The more you spend time noticing it, the more you build up that proverbial or not so proverbial funny bone. Exactly. And then you realize that it's everywhere, even in the ridiculous or the awful or the totally mundane.
Exactly.
We live in a funny world.
Yeah, we do live in a funny
and
world.
Humans are eternally ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. I agree, 100%. But again, the circle, remember that at the heart of it isn't about being fun, but just being more human, being more real.
So I've mentioned your book, The Humor Advantage, Why Some Businesses Are Laughing All the Way to the Bank. Love it. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about this book, like who you wrote it for and how clients have been using it in their business?
Yeah, you bet. I would hope, and I would hope you would agree with this, Lauren, that it's got a pretty broad appeal.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many organizations under the sun that couldn't benefit from a stronger workplace culture and more humor in their workplace. And one of the things I stress, and I do stress this in the book, I think I end on this sort of note, is that even if adding more humor to your business, to your workplace, doesn't create all the success that I suggest it could, even if it doesn't, what would you rather have? The same level of success, but at least be having more fun and enjoying yourself more? It seems like a no-brainer kind of question to me. So I wrote the book really for anybody who is, I guess, some of my ideal readers, and the ones that I've heard back from the most, are people who had lost their mojo at work, who weren't feeling that loving feeling anymore, who were frustrated by their culture, who wanted to make a difference. And yes, again, when leaders read the book, when managers read the book, they probably can get a little more out of it than frontline employees. But I have heard back from every level from CEOs on down, about the impact that it has made on it, at least their own mindset, recognizing that's ultimately all we can do is deal with our own mindset, and helping them contribute to their culture and have more fun in a positive way. So I hear back from all sorts of people, and what's very cool is all over the world, from companies that have implemented some of the ideas, and they get so excited. They say, yeah, we tried. We thought it was going to be a little goofy, but we tried this idea. Everybody loved it. So we're doing it now. We keep doing it. So it's very, very cool to see those results. In fact, just a while ago, I got a rave testimonial. I was speaking in South Carolina a couple of years ago. This was maybe 3 years after the fact. And the person had read my book and been at the talk, and just sent me their latest customer rating scorecards that they got. And all of these customers commented on how much more fun their business was, how much more fun it was to work with them. And he wrote me this lovely note, which just makes your day, right? Saying, Mike, this is so much because of you and your book. So I just wanted to say thanks to you, because we have totally transformed our business because of the ideas in this book, which is just like, that's why you write these things, right?
It is. It's one of those things that you frame and put in the wall to look at when you're having a hard day, and you're like, that's why I do this.
Yes,
that's great. Well, as we close off, have you come across a particularly good example of humor in action in a business context that you can share with us? Any good stories?
Yeah, I come across this stuff all the time, right? But I do have a favorite one that I just came across just a little while ago, and I just love this, right? Because one of the things I really push is the importance of using humor to just to personalize your business, humanize your business, right? So you don't sound like just a blah 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 corporate entity, soulless corporate entity, right? So it sounds like there's a real human being behind your business.
Yeah.
So I ordered some deodorant from a company called Native Deodorant, and the correspondence I have since got from them, it made me smile, it made me laugh. I just love it. So I'm going to read. I want to take the time to read.
Yes, please do.
I just thought this was awesome. So I placed the order online. A few minutes later, I get this email in my email in basket. I thought, how cool is this? And why aren't we all communicating like this with everything we have to communicate? Michael, you rock. It was just another mundane day at our office when suddenly Jackie took a look at the computer and her eyes widened. We did it, she exclaimed. We got an order from Michael Kerr. Laura jumped out of her chair and ran to Jackie's desk. She didn't even read the entire email. She just saw Michael and started screaming in delight. OMG, Laura shouted. This is real. We have an order from Michael. The entire office erupted in applause. Party in the USA blared from the speakers as confetti rained down from the ceiling and champagne bottles were popped. The entire Native team is thrilled that you're a customer. Thank you so much for your support and for giving us a reason to cheer on another champion of health. Like, how cool is that, right?
That's so fun. That's just pure fun.
Right? Yeah, it's fun. And doesn't it make you like these folks now?
Oh, absolutely. Especially for something that is so dull and utilitarian as deodorant.
I know. So
like that fun.
We've got her at a personal level, humor helps us be more likable. We like people, you know, it's not rocket science. We like people who have a good sense of humor. And at a corporate level, we like businesses that demonstrate a good sense of humor. It ups the likability factor.
That's great. Well, Michael, I want more people to like you. So can you please tell us, I want everyone to like you, which means they have to find you. And you are an easy guy to find, but I would like you to make it a little bit easier for us. Can you tell us where you hang out online, what major channels you like to connect with people over? How can we get more of you?
Well, anybody is invited, of course, to drop by the mothership website, which is www.humoratwork.com, or mikekerr.com gets you there. I've got videos, blogs, articles. I'm proud to say my workplace blog was awarded last year as one of the top 75 workplace blogs on the planet.
Nice, so, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. So please cruise by that. If you want a weekly reminder of some of this stuff, I would invite people to sign up for my weekly e-zine, Inspiring Workplaces, Humor at Work. And if you sign up on the old website, you get a free ebook, 340 Ways to Put Humor to Work. So you can start putting some of these ideas we talked about into practice, so you can help your messages stand out from the herd to be heard, all that good stuff. And then you can find, if you want to connect with me on my YouTube channel or LinkedIn or Twitter, you can find those connections on the website.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I do hope everyone listening, everyone watching, please do go out, check out Mike's site, sign up for his newsletter. You won't regret it. He is full of fantastic regular information. That's a wrap for today, Mike. Thank you so much for being part of the Talk Shop interviews. It was wonderful and an inspiration as always. And
Fabulous to be here, Lauren. Thank you so much for the shout out.
Oh, it was great. And I'd like to thank everyone out there who watched, who hung out with us today, who listened. And please, if you found today's informational interview, very fun informational interview, interesting and helpful to help you become a better communicator, head over to laurensergi.com. Pop your name in the sign up box so you can get access to even more interviews like this from experts like Mike. I look forward to seeing you on the next Talk Shop. Have a great week. Smile. Find the funny in the everyday. And we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.